One Tree Hill actress, Sophia Bush, got into a heated exchange with commentator, author, and podcast host Allie Beth Stuckey, and the topic was abortion, miscarriage versus abortion. Specifically, they were talking about pro-life laws and whether these pro-life laws infringe on women's ability to receive life-saving healthcare in the hospitals. So they referenced one story in particular that has gone viral in the last few weeks. We're going to cover that today. I'm going to explain to you exactly how the media covered this story, how they lied about it, and what the actual true story is here so we can get to the bottom of it. Now, we know that abortion has been a very, very popular topic on the campaign trail this year. Kamala actually ran her platform primarily on abortion, one could argue, and found out pretty quickly that that did not land very well with Americans, because everyday Americans are much more concerned with things like how to pay for their gas, their groceries, how to buy a house, stopping their tax dollars to go overseas to fund foreign wars, these senseless foreign wars, illegal mass immigration. It turns out that abortion actually isn't the number one issue that people are wanting to hear about and wanting to vote for. So now that Trump won, all of the liberals and the media and all the feminists and the celebrities or influencers are coming out and claiming that women are going to die because of Trump's pro-life laws, which, by the way, there are no federal laws that he has promised to put into place that would supposedly infringe on a woman's so-called right to an abortion. Roe versus Wade has already been overturned. It's already been kicked back to the states. But of course, you have a lot of these women who are claiming that pregnant mothers are going to die because they can't receive life-saving healthcare. And that's exactly what Sophia Bush is claiming on her Instagram.
With these pro-forced birth folks, who incidentally always vote against funding for children once they're actually out of the womb, but that's a separate conversation. Despite what the pro-forced birth folks want to tell you, these laws prohibit doctors from giving care. In the case of that woman in Texas who I posted about today, her baby was dying. She was in an active miscarriage, but the baby still technically had a heartbeat. So they wouldn't give her treatment. They would not operate. They would not intervene. They said it would be a crime due to the heartbeat law. And so they had to wait. And by the time they could safely intervene without fearing for prosecution, those doctors were unable to save her life. These laws are killing women. And y'all are panicking that we're talking about it because you did this. You have blood on your hands.
Okay, first of all, pro-forced birth folks who don't vote to support people out of the womb. Listen here, honey. Statistically, year after year, conservative pro-life Christians donate the most money, time, and resources to children, families, and mothers in need. By far, every single year, by a long shot, compared to all of you pro-abortion people, compared to the liberals, compared to the feminists. So don't try to tell me that we're quote, pro-forced birth and we don't care what happens to people after they're born. First of all, there's no such thing as forced birth. You can't force a body to give birth. It is a natural bodily function. That's like saying you're going to force somebody to digest food. You're going to force somebody to defecate. These are things that are natural bodily functions. You can't force this to happen. But now let's get to the story. So the story that they're using as fuel to claim that all women need access to abortion because they need access to life-saving healthcare is about an 18-year-old woman named Nevaeh Crain in Texas. Now, she tragically died when she was 6 months pregnant with her child, and ProPublica first published the story, and they framed it as a tragedy that was the result of the Texas heartbeat law, which is a pretty strict abortion law in Texas. And they claimed that she was having a miscarriage and she went to the hospital and she was suddenly denied life-saving care by doctors because these doctors were supposedly too afraid to perform the necessary healthcare treatment because they didn't want to be prosecuted for performing an abortion. So people like Sophia Bush are claiming that these doctors were afraid of being imprisoned, so they withheld life-saving healthcare from this woman. Now, this is called medical malpractice. The idea that doctors are withholding life-saving healthcare from a woman in need is just flat out medical malpractice. So that doesn't even have anything to do with the law. That has to do with medical malpractice. But that's not even what happened here. So they say the only reason that she died was because the Texas heartbeat law prohibited these doctors from performing any care on her. And now her death is being used as the gold standard about why women supposedly need access to legalized abortion across the country without any boundaries. But I'm here to tell you what really happened with Nevaeh Crain, because Sophia Bush, I don't know if she's intentionally lying to you or if she's just willfully ignorant, but all of these influencers and celebrities and media outlets, they're lying to you. Okay, so Nevaeh Crain tragically died of sepsis, which is a systemic inflammatory reaction that is due to some kind of infection in the body. And the infection, the source of infection in her body was, very sadly, the rotting fetus. So her baby died in the womb when she was 6 months pregnant. On the day of her baby shower, she went to 2 different emergency rooms. That morning, she woke up feeling sick. She had intense abdominal pain. She was struggling to walk, and her mom said, let's go to the hospital. So the first hospital she went to diagnosed her with strep throat. They gave her some antibiotics. They did not investigate her abdominal cramps, and they let her go. That was a major problem right there. And then the second ER that she went to, they found signs of sepsis, but apparently they weren't responding to treatment, and they discharged her anyway. Again, huge red flag there. Normally, they would look for the source of the infection, take samples, maybe some imaging. None of that was done. Now, again, up to this point, not a single part of her story has anything to do with abortion. None of this. Not the first trip to the hospital, not the second trip to the hospital. At this point, even if they had found that there was the miscarriage that was a source of sepsis, an abortion, again, is not even the treatment here. She's 6 months pregnant. She would have to deliver the child, probably like an emergency C-section. But this is not some case of like, oh, take an abortion pill and you're going to be all better. So on the third hospital visit, an OB confirmed fetal demise, and they moved her to intensive care. At this point, sadly, it was pretty much too late. A couple of hours later, her blood pressure plummeted, her organs started to fail, and then a couple of hours later, she was dead. Now, this is an incredibly sad story. It's absolutely tragic. But again, none of this has anything to do with abortion. Now, as ProPublica is reporting on this, they say that Nevaeh's mother didn't know why her emergency wasn't properly treated at the hospitals. This happened in 2023, and the mother says her daughter would have turned 20 this Friday, and she still can't understand why Crain's emergency was not treated like an emergency. Now, the ProPublica article says, but that is what many pregnant women are now facing in states with strict abortion bans, doctors and lawyers have told ProPublica. This is the kind of wording that the media does intentionally to confuse you. So this phrasing here, doctors and lawyers have told ProPublica that this is what's happening. This is the reality for many pregnant women in Texas. They cannot receive the care that they want. Which doctors? Which doctors told ProPublica that? Because if you read this, you think it sounds like the doctors that treated Nevaeh Crain told ProPublica that they couldn't treat her because of the Texas heartbeat law. That's not what happened here. They did not interview a single doctor involved in this case. I mean, even if they tried to reach out, the doctors would obviously decline for legal reasons. But they make it sound like all of these doctors, there's just this wide consensus that Nevaeh Crain died because she couldn't get access to an abortion. And then they have a quote from some law and policy professor at George Washington University. She said, "Pregnant women have essentially become untouchables." Are you serious? This is how the media functions, and it's absolutely infuriating because, of course, it's very confusing. And so this is a story of medical negligence and nothing more. Now, I want to say one more thing about how in the article it says doctors tell ProPublica this is the reality of pregnant women. I used to work at women's digital magazines. That's what I did for a long time. If you're new to my channel, you may not know that I worked in media for a long time. And one of the reasons why I quit is because I saw the way that essentially fake news was manufactured, packaged, curated, and sold to women. And when they interview doctors, anytime a publication like this will interview a medical professional, they have a short list of doctors and medical professionals that they reach out to. And usually they have some sort of agreement with these doctors, or at the very least, they agree ideologically with these doctors. So for example, when I was writing content about women's healthcare, content about the birth control pill, PCOS, hormones, fertility, etc., you could not reach out to a doctor that had different ideological views. Like I could not reach out to a pro-life OBGYN. I had to reach out to an OBGYN that was approved by the publication, approved by the editorial directors, and these OBGYNs were on the same page politically. So anytime you see the media saying, we interviewed all of these doctors, and they claim that this is somehow the medical consensus, but they are only asking specific doctors who already agree with them on policies like abortion. So let's go back to Nevaeh's story. So sepsis, for those of you who don't know, it spreads very, very quickly. So a lot can tragically happen in the span of 12 hours. hours, which is the time frame that she visited 2 different ERs that first day. And so by then, sadly, her sepsis was already in a very, very bad place. But at this point, she wasn't even given an ultrasound. This is where the pro-abortion people will claim that this is because of the Texas heartbeat law, but it's got nothing to do with the heartbeat law. It's got everything to do with an inefficient healthcare system that is bound by government regulation and bureaucratics, and they were not able or not willing to give this woman the proper care because of whatever red tape and government regulation they had to go through. Okay, so here's a tweet from Malcolm Flex 48. He goes over this case in a lot of detail, but we're going to kind of skim through what he says here. He says the bureaucratic obstacles and restrictive criteria mandated by the Affordable Care Act, ACA, which by the way is a Democratic brainchild, not surprisingly, significantly complicate operations in smaller medical systems, including the Baptist medical systems common in Texas. A key aspect of these systems is their ability to provide quick, on-the-spot treatments for straightforward issues rather than engaging in extensive investigations into symptoms or potential underlying causes. In Nevaeh Crain's case, these limitations played a critical role. During the crucial 12 hours she had, she was unable to receive the immediate help she desperately needed. By the time she sought care at a second emergency room for severe abdominal cramps, the situation had escalated. Sepsis had already advanced rapidly. Even at this stage, she required an ultrasound to confirm that the fetus was dead, rotting, and the source of her sepsis. The process was further delayed due to the same bureaucratic load and red tape. The core issue here lies with the ACA, Affordable Care Act, which has inadvertently made it even simple treatments for pre-existing conditions and allergies a cumbersome process for many hospitals and facilities. This narrative is not about the absence of abortion access, which might be misused recreationally in many instances. This is how they lie to you, because this has nothing to do with abortion. That has everything to do with the inefficiency and the medical negligence of these medical providers and the hospitals. And it proved fatal. And unfortunately, the media has run with the story and they're twisting the truth in order to serve their own political package. And now Nevaeh's family is rightfully suing for medical malpractice. And Nevaeh's family says that her death is being used for politics, like it says here. They say the hospitals are to blame. Her mother says, I want them to be going after Baptist and St. Elizabeth because they're to blame for her death. And infuriatingly, this journalist reached out to the hospitals to ask them for comment. Baptist Hospital at least had the decency not to comment. Imagine that. Your 18-year-old daughter tragically dies because of medical malpractice and not receiving the proper care that she and her child needed. But then as you're grieving over her death, the media picks up the story, they twist it, they lie about the details, and they push it forward as this pro-abortion agenda. So you know what? Sophia Bush, stop lying. Okay. The media and the pro-abortion feminists are capitalizing. You, Sophia Bush, are capitalizing on an innocent woman's tragic death to try to twist it into your narrative. You're using her as a pawn and you don't care about the truth. You only care about peddling whatever your agenda is, regardless of what the truth is. And even caring about the humanity of this woman's family. They're grieving. And you are using her story to peddle something that's completely false.
You're big mad over expressions of frustration. They want to get into semantics about disinformation, misinformation, but they can't handle the semantics about how abortion care is classified, spontaneous abortion versus elective abortion. They want to play games with women's lives. They want to find any loophole, any explanation that they can to claim that doctors' hands aren't tied. Doctors are afraid to treat women. Women are getting substandard care. Women are being denied care until they are in active sepsis. I don't give a shit how you want to pink cloud this and pretend that it's okay. Y'all did this. You have women's blood on your hands. Deal with it.
Oh, we have blood on our hands, Sophia Bush? We do? We have blood on our hands when that story literally has zero to do with abortion. Allie Beth Stuckey responded and she shared a photo here. I have to say, before I share this, if you are easily grossed out by these kinds of things and if you're easily disturbed, I would maybe skip past this part or just listen to the audio here. So Allie Beth Stuckey shares this photo and she says, this sweet baby, third trimester, was murdered via forced cardiac arrest using potassium chloride, then delivered at a Washington, D.C. abortion clinic in 2022. This is the least graphic photo of the babies who were uncovered in the clinic's garbage 2 years ago. The other babies had their skulls caved in, eyes still open. And then Allie says, miss me with the blood on your hands, forced birthers rhetoric, Sophia Bush. You support this. And she shared another photo and said, this baby's life mattered. Babies have rights. It's atrocious that anyone believes otherwise. It is rich for her to claim that we're the ones who have blood on our hands, when we are the ones who are trying to save children. We're the ones who are trying to protect mothers. We are the ones who are trying to protect families. Now let's go back to what she says about semantics, because this is a very common argument that pro-abortion activists use. They run with this, and they think that the entire argument can be hinged on the fact that a miscarriage is classified in insurance coding as a spontaneous abortion versus an elective abortion. And they think this is some kind of gotcha moment. They think that because the insurance coding is like this on the back end administratively, they think that all abortions need to be made legal no matter what. Now, there's a difference. Spontaneous abortion, when you see that in insurance coding, that is what is a miscarriage can be classified under. And then an elective abortion is when a woman just goes in and she's like, I don't want this baby, and then she goes in for the operation or whatever. Here's the thing. You think this is some kind of gotcha moment, but everybody knows, all the doctors know, all the medical providers know, everyone with a working brain knows what the difference is between the two. And we're talking about morally, we're talking about scientifically, and most importantly, we're talking about legally. Because if you actually read the abortion bills, which I promise you, Sophia Bush has not done. If you actually read the abortion bills, for example, the Texas heartbeat law, you would see that these bills explicitly state that the abortions they're outlawing have nothing to do with the health care that is provided for mothers who are experiencing a miscarriage, mothers who are experiencing some kind of ectopic pregnancy, mothers whose lives are in danger, etc. If you read the bills, again, which I know most of these, probably all of these pro-abortion feminists will not, because they just want to get online, they want to scream, they want to look at the headlines, and they want to yell and say that we're the problem. If you actually read the bills, you will see that these differences are very clearly carved out. So there is never a reason legally why a doctor should be afraid of providing life-saving healthcare to a woman who is having a miscarriage. Again, not that that has anything to do with what's happening to Nevaeh Crain, but their claim is that this is what's happening. That's got nothing to do with the Texas heartbeat law. So if you look here, Allie shares some of the text from the Texas law. She says, abortion means the act of using or prescribing an instrument, a drug, a medicine, or any other substance, device, or means with the intent to cause the death of an unborn child of a woman known to be pregnant. The term does not include birth control devices or oral contraceptives. An act is not an abortion if the act is done with the intent to save the life or preserve the health of an unborn child, remove a dead unborn child whose death was caused by spontaneous abortion, or remove an ectopic pregnancy. There it is, right there. There's not a single pro-life law in the United States that does not distinctively categorize these two as very different. So there is not a single state in the United States where a woman who is having a miscarriage or who is experiencing an ectopic pregnancy or whose life is in danger is not able to receive life-saving care. And if she doesn't receive that life-saving care, it's got nothing to do with the law. It's got everything to do with medical malpractice at the hands of the doctors and the medical providers. So Sophia Bush and all of the other celebrities and influencers who want to keep selling you this fake package of abortion, they pretend like they have the moral high ground. They pretend like they are morally superior. They are either, like I said earlier, willfully ignorant or intentionally lying to you to sell you a political package. I don't know what's worse. Part of me thinks, I think the latter is worse than the former. At least if you're willfully ignorant, there is a chance that you could see the truth. You could read the bills and you can see what's actually going on. Maybe you'll change your mind. I don't know. Both are pretty bad. But the whole point is almost all of these abortion stories, actually all of the abortion stories that the liberals will run with and use as headline news, there is always something there that they are not telling you. For example, there was another story that came out earlier this year. A woman was prosecuted. I forgot what state it was in, but she was prosecuted for allegedly having a miscarriage. That's the way that it was framed in the news. They said that a woman was prosecuted for having a miscarriage. And the truth was she was doing meth during her entire pregnancy. And then the baby was born and she unalived the baby after the baby was born alive. And the baby was well past what would be considered viable. She was something like 30 something weeks pregnant. That's what she was being prosecuted for. So every time you see these stories shared by the media and by celebrities saying that they can't receive care because they can't have an abortion, look into the details, because I guarantee you the details tell you a very different story. So Sophia Bush, thank you for lying and for peddling this fake story, but gone are the days where we are going to just blindly accept whatever you celebrities are saying. Why? Because you were on One Tree Hill one day, because you have democracy nerd in your Instagram bio. Miss me with this. Miss me with the fake caring. Miss me with the fake moral superiority. You are wrong, and you are peddling a fake narrative for your own political agenda. And the craziest thing is, what you're doing is the most anti-woman thing in the world. You are scaring women by using a fake narrative rather than telling the truth and compassion. That's so anti-woman, to lie to women about healthcare, about pregnancy, about birth. We're here telling the truth because we actually care about women. So there you go.